All right, all right, all right. Hey, what's up, party people? It's your boy Mutt-Man. I got Macho Dan, and we got a very special guest with us today. Before I introduce our special guest, I just wanted to say hello to all you wonderful people. And I wanted to tell you that this past weekend was my birthday weekend. And so we had a lot of fun. Me and Macho went to a local Comic-Con and got a bunch of dollar bin issues and met a couple of cool creators and actually, got to spend a lot of time just nerding out, which we don't normally get to do. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, hey, I wanted to let you know you look great for 68, by the way. I'm real proud of you. You must be moisturizing and everything.
Dude, man,
you're looking good, man.
I'm 29 and holding, brother. 29 and staying. I'm not going anywhere. Parking it. No, but we actually got to have a cool pool party this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So, I got to see Macho in the pool, which was hard because his head is so shiny that it really was really tough to see. I did have some shades on, so that was good.
Lucky for you.
Yeah, but we were jumping off the diving board, had the families together. It was a lot of fun, and it's cool. All right, it's cool to be able to hang out with your bros and make comics together too. So that was Macho. Did you enjoy our weekend together?
I had a fantastic weekend, and our wives made a lot of fun of us because we kept talking. We talked to each other. We spent all day together on Saturday. We talked to each other on Sunday. And so they like to poke fun at us, but I had a great time with my my bromance on Saturday and Sunday. It's a good weekend.
Yeah. So we've got a new bromance here now.
That's right. Our next bromance,
our new
bromage a trois.
That's really nice. So our new good friend, Dave Swartz. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Now, Dave was fully informed that he needed to have a ball cap and a beard. So we're at the ball cap and beard convention today. We're all together.
On.
This is the comic creator go-to attire. So welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your project that's on Indiegogo, and I'm actually going to be pulling that up while you're talking.
Cool, great. So my name's Dave Swartz. I'm a comic writer, illustrator, colorist, letterer. I pretty much can do it all. So I've worked on a couple of different series. I self-published a book a couple of years ago called Atlas Origins, sort of like a metaphysical superhero type story. And then I went on to create this new series, Feast or Famine, the sci-fi series for Alterna Comics. So Feast or Famine is about an alternate universe where Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein partner together and they go on a space adventure. So they basically get to go into this 50s retro kind of vision of the future or an alien world. Where aliens and robots are all over the place, and they have this interesting kind of dilemma, or how do they help this alien society to survive that's in peril? But underneath it all, there's a pretty sinister secret that is revealed. So it's a really kind of interesting, quick story. It's only about 3 to 4 issues long. It was three issues, but it's really it's about 4 crammed into 3. So it's 32 pages an issue, but the collected edition right now is on Indiegogo, and it's doing really well. It just exceeded its goal yesterday afternoon, in fact. So it's awesome. Doing awesome.
Yeah, congratulations, man. It feels so good, when you cross that line. I know as far as we were concerned, it was a huge weight off our shoulders. We were just so happy. So I know you're celebrating today.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of hard work over the last couple of weeks, and we have a week yet to go. So there's going to be a lot more work to get some stretch goals unlocked and see how far we can go with it.
I gotta say, man, the book looks absolutely beautiful. The artwork, the lines are beautiful. I love the layout. I love your lettering style. I love the colors. It all is just wonderful looking. And you're responsible for how much of it?
So I wrote the story and I colored the series. So I actually hired a really fantastic pencil and inker, Joseph Cooper. He's pretty much worked on all kinds of different series for almost every publisher, I believe. And the guy is just clearly a fantastic sequential illustrator. So I actually had the chance of being sat next to him at a Comic-Con here in the Michigan area. And, we just kind of struck up a conversation, and he really kind of helped me to, encourage me to continue with what I was doing. And we stayed in contact. And when I had the idea for the story, I gave him a couple of different options, and this was the one that he wanted to do a couple pages for me for. And I took that, used it as a pitch, and it, got picked up.
Now he did the, did he do the retro cover too?
No, actually, that's my creation. So,
okay.
I had that idea a couple of months before I started the Indiegogo campaign. I was trying to come up with some interesting ideas for new rewards. I had a couple holdovers from the last campaign that we ran, but I did want to add some new stuff, obviously. So one of the ideas I had was to do like a limited edition print, 11 by 17 of this, throwback, retro cover for it. It was kind of based off of a weird science comic that I found on the internet. It was really close to what I was envisioning in my brain, so I used that as my inspiration. But then I had a live stream with the publisher of Alterna Comics, Peter Simetti, and he and I both came to the conclusion that it would be really awesome if we could make a limited edition variant copy of issue 1 with that as the cover. So that's available on the Indiegogo campaign and only on the Indiegogo campaign.
All right, so let's go up and let's just kind of walk through your campaign a little bit, and you can kind of tell us about some of the perks you've got. And I mean, honestly, like right off the bat, just from looking at just a few images up top, it's real clear that this is a high level, pro level comic book. So it gives you all kinds of confidence to purchase right off the bat. But then coming down, when we're talking about perks, you've got a pretty awesome swag combo for only $25. So why don't you tell us what's in that?
Sure. So the swag combo includes a digital and physical copy of the collected edition, signed by me. And then you get a t-shirt, you get a 2-inch enamel button, and you get this little cool Tachyon Labs access pass. It's like a little lanyard you might get it for a festival. But it's just kind of a cool little thing that we did for the last campaign that I wanted to include for this little bundle.
I love it. That's a really cool touch.
That's a really great. That's like a lot of bang for your buck. And we did a similar tier, we did a swag tier also. But man, t-shirt and the Tachyon. I like the Tachyon Labs. That's a great name for a lab. That's really cool. That's a great perk. Like $25. And what? How about this? Like we'll go to some more perks in a second. But obviously the shipping. What's your take on shipping? What's your domestic rate?
So for most of these levels, it starts out at about $5 for domestic. Wow. But then for some of the larger levels, if you're getting something like artwork or a print, then it goes up to $7.
Wow, that's really, really good for shipping.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
I gotta ask you, because it seems like, well, I'll just ask you straight up: are you getting any help from Alterna when it comes to shipping, packing, those kinds of things, or is this all you?
No, this would be all me. So, Peter's got to send all that stuff to me, and then I have to sign it all, package it all together, and then ship it out. So it's a bit of a job, but I set aside the time to do it because to me, the fans are what make this whole business possible. And now more than ever, I mean, the comic book industry is not doing so hot as we know. So, indie comic books is really the best avenue, I think, for people that are just getting started, to try to, find a fan base out there to help support them. So I want to try to give back to them as much as I possibly can.
Right.
Amen.
That's cool.
100%.
Yep. 100%. That's great. Like you're really putting, like I'm really impressed with the amount of work and stuff that you have going into this campaign, and like how much you're giving for the amount of money. Like you have to have worked it down to the penny, because you've got this figured out. This is cool.
Well, yes, and one of the things that Alterna Comics is all about too is trying to get the comic book into more hands as easily as possible.
Right.
And part of that is the newsprint. They print all of their single issues on newsprint, which really takes the cost down quite dramatically.
Sure.
And instead of taking that money and that profit and keeping it, they in turn pass that savings along to the consumer. So, their issues are, they range between, I believe, $1.50 to $2, and that's about it, for a single issue. So, for the entire Feast or Famine series, you could get the whole thing for under $5.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
All right, so your smallest buy-in is a magnet. Now, this is interesting to me. So, is this just kind of like, hey, if you want to give us $4, we'll send you a cool magnet?
I mean, it was sort of a quick little idea that I had. I wanted to really kind of just entice more and more people to take a look at the campaign and see that things were changing and that there were new things being added. So every time we crossed a milestone, I wanted to add a little extra, add-on perk. So it is added as a standalone perk. So if you only want to get the magnet, say maybe you bought, the books in the previous campaign on Kickstarter, and maybe you just want to help support and buy a cool magnet. You can do that. And actually, people have done that. Clearly, there's 3, I believe, on that list already. So
that's great.
But it's also available as an add-on for all the other tiers. So say if you bought, say, the swag combo and you wanted to add that magnet on, you can do that. There's a bunch of other add-on tiers or add-on perks, that I have available, and it's actually a cool little feature that Indiegogo has that Kickstarter doesn't. So,
real quick before we move on, where are you at right now as far as Kickstarter versus Indiegogo?
Oh man, I'm kind of 50-50 right now. It's really interesting. At first, I liked a lot of the awesome features of Indiegogo, the add-on perks, the secret perk. The secret perk is really cool. I've utilized that myself. So if you want to see the secret perk, all you got to do is go to thefeastison.com and subscribe, and you'll be able to get an email with a link to it. So, but anyway, the extra features that you can do with Indiegogo is nice. However, I find that at the beginning with Indiegogo, it was kind of slow going. To me, it didn't seem like I had a lot of Indiegogo users sort of finding the campaign and pledging right away. Whereas with Kickstarter, I found that I got a lot of new backers that were just people on Kickstarter looking to back campaigns. So to me, it just seemed like at first the Kickstarter fans were a little bit more on it and jumped on it. But as time has gone on, the Indiegogo fans have started to really kind of pick up the pace. So, it's starting to even out. But I will say the one thing that I tweeted about earlier that kind of, I don't know, it just sort of stuck out in my brain was when I've done Kickstarter campaigns and you exceed your goal, you usually get a congratulatory email from Kickstarter.
Right.
And I didn't get one from Indiegogo, and I was like, oh man, come on. Like, I don't know. I just thought it would have been a nice little thing that they could do, but it's one of those like teeny little things that just stuck out.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I just want to know what you thought. I know there's a kind of somewhat of a debate amongst all the comic book creators about which one they prefer. And I know it has been all Kickstarter for a long time. And so it's interesting how many people are kind of coming around to Indiegogo. And just for the sake of people that don't know, you have had 4 or 5, how many successful campaigns have you done?
So total, I've done 5 now. So
Okay.
with this success, I've done 5. I did 4 previously on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And this time I wanted to try something new. I thought that, it might be an interesting experiment to see, if I could generate some more fans and more interest on Indiegogo. And I think I have. I would, maybe do another one on Kickstarter. I just feel like I said before, I felt like the fan base was a little bit more active on Kickstarter, but overall, I think it's been pretty good so far. In the 4 successful ones that I did with Kickstarter, those were really great. I was able to get my first self-published book, Atlas Origins, off the ground. I did a Kickstarter for the first issue, to get the first issue printed so that I could actually go to a Comic-Con and have something to give people. And then about a year later, I did a campaign to do the collected edition of all 6 issues. So, and that turned out great. That book was fantastic. And I think I just ran out of the last one. I think I printed about 250 of them. So, then I did one for these little mini standees that you can find on my website, daveswartzart.com. They're just sort of these, I envision like an old cardboard cutout from a movie theater, but just a mini version of one that you can put on your desk, or you can, it has little magnets on the back that you can put on the refrigerator or file cabinet or whatever. And then they come with little detachable quotes. So, if it's a pop culture character, you can get 6 interchangeable quotes. And they've actually been pretty popular with people. The Kickstarter went really well. I think I made about 80 of them for the first run.
Wow.
So I kind of built up a pretty cool library. And
that's awesome.
I had like 4 different Batmans, and I think I have almost the whole cast of Archer. So yeah, it's really fun. And the nice thing about them too is they're really good for gifts as well. So I found that usually around Christmas time, I get a kind of a bit of a spike for them.
Sure,
that's great.
Yeah.
So you definitely know your way around a printer. Do you have? And we can talk about this. We can talk about this offline, but I'd love to know if you have a particular printer that you like to work with, or if there's a group of printers that you would recommend. But it seems like you've got a lot of products. You must have a good relationship with some printer.
Well, the mini standees I do all myself. So I just invested in a nice laser printer here for my mini standees, because they're designed to be able to fit on a piece, usually a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. I can go a little bit bigger, like that Colossus. I think I made that on just a larger piece of paper that I was able to cram into my printer. But
this is my favorite, by the way.
Oh yeah, that one turned out great.
I love it.
Yeah, but my books, I was able to do the Atlas Collected Edition through a local printer here in Plymouth, Michigan. So they did a really great job. I'll give them a shout out. They're Greco Printing. Okay. I think it's GREKO. They did a fantastic job with that book. I mean, it was a little pricey, but I mean, honestly, I priced it at a good, retail level, and I think I was able to make a good profit off of it when all said and done, especially for the quality of the book. And ever since then, I've always done all of my printing with them, and for all of my art prints as well. So all the prints that you're going to get from this campaign, including that retro print, are going to be really high quality art prints.
All right, so let's move away from printing and let's talk about the digital. You've got a $5 digital copy. Are you now? Some people do. Some people offer digital versions begrudgingly. Some people are big fans of having a digital version of your copy of your comic. Where do you stand on digital?
Well, I like it as an option for those that live on the other side of the planet. I've had so many backers that message me and just say, I'd really love to give you money for a physical, copy of it, but I just can't pay the $25 for shipping because I live in Singapore. So it's something that allows them to still get the book if they haven't seen it already. And, they can contribute to the campaign and, make sure that I can continue to make the books that I make.
Yeah, we love digital too. And one thing that people have said is, well, what I don't like is getting a PDF sent to me before I get the book, because it's almost like it's almost like cheating a little bit. Now, people like to have the book that they're holding in their hand that they can read and have that experience.
Sure.
So we've decided for our campaign to not send the digital copy until we have fulfilled the print version.
And that's a great way to do it. I actually love that idea. I might steal it.
Yeah. And if you haven't committed, I mean, that's definitely one way around it, because that kind of squelches the problems that most people have with getting a PDF. But there are a lot of those people, like you said, who don't want to pay for shipping. So it's a great option. And I love if you priced yours at $5. I've seen some digital copies that are so expensive.
There's some digital that are the exact same price as the physical tier I've seen recently.
To me, that doesn't make any sense.
No sense at all.
I feel like the most I would ever pay for a digital copy of a comic is like $10 or something like that.
Yeah, I think I paid 10 or 12 for one that I really wanted. That was like, it was just something like the physical was just very expensive and I couldn't afford it, or I didn't need to allocate the funds to that right at this moment. So, but yeah, no, $5. That's what we're at. I think, is it $5 we did? Yeah. And that's a good price point. And I think if nothing else, it can get people excited about the product. Like, they might get the digital this time, and next time, like, they may go ahead and go all in and get a physical tier. So, to me, it's like investing in the future too, a little bit.
All right, so we've got a $5 physical copy. Now that is a fantastic price.
Yeah, incredible.
$5. And I love that retro cover too. That's a really cool looking cover.
Absolutely. Well, for the first issue, I mean, typically you would only pay $1.50 for it. So I mean, I'm pricing it at $5 only because it's a limited edition. You're never going to find this anywhere else.
Right.
And frankly, I just think it's such a cool item. I want to hold one in my hands already. I just really, when I had the idea, I had this vision for it, and when I sat down to execute it, I somehow it just came out exactly how I envisioned it, and I'm really proud of how it turned out.
Yeah, I like the I'm a big, like, I like the fonts. Like, I love a really good font, and the fonts you used on that thing are excellent. They're awesome.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time searching through lots of fonts to try to find the right thing to be able to capture what I was looking for. So
well, it's a very unique and different story. There's other kind of like I would say alternative history type stories that have been done. This one is one that it seems like is very unique, and you've got some different things going on that I think it's going to be hard to compare it to much else. And so, like, having and you said, and I think you clearly stated that you're doing 3 issues, and that's the completed story. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I put a little bit of a stinger at the end, but it's just kind of the way that I write. I can't help myself.
That's okay.
Just leave the door just cracked a little bit. Yeah. Well, no, that's great, because what that, to me as a reader, what that means is I'm getting a complete story. It's going to be a very interesting, unique story, and it'll be collected in one of a kind. So that's even more reason to go out and grab this thing.
Absolutely.
Let's see, stickers. This is another one of your add-on items, your sticker packs. Those are great looking stickers. Coasters.
Yeah, those are the coasters, the stickers. They all feature artwork from the covers of the series. So, when Joseph and I were talking about what we wanted to do with the covers, he had the idea of trying to kind of tie them together somehow with the design. So in the bottom right corner of every cover, they kind of have a feature of the characters that are kind of either introduced or kind of important in that issue. So I pulled those characters out for the stickers, and I figured, why not keep the cover trend going with the coasters, and you can kind of collect them all.
That's cool.
That is really cool. Well, and any way that you can find to add collectability to these things is that much better, because people they just go, especially comics guys, they just go for that. They love the collectability issue.
Absolutely. Well, and we just, when we crossed the 5K mark and we met our goal, I added a mini standee of the two guys from Feast of Famine as an add-on perk. So cool. Now you can get a mini standee as well. So if you got a magnet, a mini standee, coasters, stickers, you got the whole thing.
Yeah,
wow, man, you're definitely giving a lot of value for a little bit of money. Look at this, Macho. There's a $10 copy. This is a signed copy too. You're going to sign these. Yep,
I'm signing every single one of them.
That's cool.
Look at that, and that's 100. Is that 100 pages? You said how many pages?
Yep, it'll be about 100 pages.
Gosh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That is like serious bang for your buck.
Is this going to be a perfect bound book?
Yeah. Yep. It's a little bit smaller size than a traditional comic book, but it's a really nice quality book. I actually backed a couple of other Alterna creators with their collected editions, the Wicked Righteous and Tinseltown. And I just got those rewards filled not too long ago, and those books are really good quality. And I'm excited to see this book printed on digital paper. I mean, as much as I love the newsprint, and I won't begrudge that at all, Peter, don't worry. But I'm kind of really excited to see how it turns out on digital, especially because I did the coloring, and I think the coloring might be a little bit different in digital. So.
Well, there's no question it's going to be. Paper quality is going to add a better quality to the colors.
Exactly.
So.
But your colors are excellent, though. I think it fits this book so well. That's the thing that immediately grabbed me. Like, obviously the art is great, but the colors are excellent. They're really good.
Thank you. And one of the things too that for you guys that know, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that are watching that know this as well. But when you try to print things like green, it's really difficult to get that to translate. Even in digital, right? Yeah. And I just wanted to show this really quick. If hopefully this translates well. My camera's probably not that great, but I mean.
Let me get it on you real quick. Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
All we see is you. God, get it off of that.
All right, I'm trying to learn how to do this. Hold on.
Come on, Boomer, you got this.
I'm brand new at this.
I'm holding.
Hold it.
Holding.
I think that's the best I'm going to get right there.
Okay, that's okay. But still, you can see how vibrant those greens are. I mean, this is newsprint too. I mean, that's pretty insane. Great. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Got it. Look at that. No, it is fantastic. Look at that.
Yeah. Color looks great. On newsprint. Newsprint looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, there are some times where you get some different colors that bleed or the ink kind of sticks or whatever, but that's kind of the nostalgic part of it too. Like we were talking about before we started, when I first found out that everything was going to be on newsprint, I had a little bit of a panic moment because I was like, oh my God, what is going to happen to my story? But when I thought about it some more, I realized, the style of the book has got this retro 50s kind of vibe to it. So I think the newsprint style kind of fits, kind of works. And when it's all said and done, it really does. I think it works well.
Now, I'll admit I was a doubter. Okay. I was a doubter about the newsprint. And I actually listened to some Peter Samedi interviews, and he was going on about newsprint. And I was kind of like, okay, I know what newsprint is, and I know what print looks like on newsprint. I ordered my set of Alterna, and it really is a great looking comic book, and it does feel like the classic comic books that we used to buy off the newsstand. So he's got a great business model. There's no question about it. If you want a $1.50 comic and you want something that's, you know, is nostalgic, he's got it. So it's a great process.
Right. I've enjoyed it so far, and in the printing partnership that they're doing too now for up and coming creators or guys that are just trying to get like a small print run of their own book done. You know, piggyback off of Alterna print runs. It's a really cool opportunity, and in the future I may take advantage of it myself. We'll see.
We'd like to. That would be something that I'd love to do. Like for our campaign, if we got up to a certain amount of money, I'd love to be able to include our ash can of our 16-page preview as just a newsprint run. I think that would be such a cool thing to add on, because it would be cheap enough and easy enough to package, because we could set it in there, you know, go in the same mailer with our regular issue. That would be an easy one to put on, but we'll see what happens. We got to get there first money-wise. And real quick, I wanted to say hey to our buddy Derek Host Galvin, a.k.a. Cody, who is in the chat. And he's talking about how Mutt is the biggest boomer he knows. So shout out to our buddy Cody here. And Dave, Cody is he is a up and coming indie creator. He has a book coming out called Wisdom Comes, and it's going to be really, really cool. And I'm very excited about that one too. So anyway, shout out to him. He's our boy. We really appreciate him.
Hey, well, let me just say before we move on from this point, Macho, I am the one who went out and did the research, and I am the one who is running this for the first time. So I may be booming it up a little bit.
You know what? It shows. It really does.
Get no respect.
I have a couple of questions for you too, Dave. Like, so some of the, you know, Mutt and I were talking about this because I was kind of excited when you first reached out to me and we started talking on Twitter, and I was like, you know, Mutt, this guy Dave, he works with Alterna, and so we were talking about it, and we wanted to know kind of what is the process and what is it like to work with Peter in Alterna Comics. Is it different than you thought, or is it, you know, like what is it? What's it like? Give us a little peek behind the curtain.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, working with Peter's been great. You know, the thing that I really enjoy about Peter is he is a comic book creator himself, and he knows, you know, what it takes to actually make a comic book. He's done it before. And the other thing about him that I like is he's got that business savvy and that forward thinking that I think lends it well to a good knowledge base to kind of lean on sometimes. So like, this is my first fully, you know, published work. You know, before this, I was just doing it all myself. So, you know, I asked him a lot of questions when I was first starting out. And he was able to really take the time to answer me and get back to me actually pretty quickly. I mean, the guy runs the whole thing by himself.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Right. I mean, it's insane. Like I do like probably an eighth of the work that he does, you know, and I probably get a lot more sleep than he does. I'll say that.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, I just thought it was, you know, really good of him, you know, to, after all that he does all day long, to take some time and read my email and actually give me a response that's sincere. So, you know, that's been great. You know, in the beginning, it was awesome as well. You know, just trying to figure out exactly like how we were going to navigate this thing. You know, when I first pitched the series, you know, I pitched it as a 6th issue, and you know, he had suggested, well, let's not really get too ahead of ourselves. You know, let's make sure that we can, you know, get a solid book out there and make sure people can get to the end. You know, like it's really hard if you've got like a 6 or, you know, 8 or 10 or 12 issue, you know, book to get people to the good part, you know, the end, right? So, you know, I thought that was good advice, and we worked together to try to craft something that we thought would be profitable and really received by fans, you know, well. So all in all, I think it's been a really good relationship working with Peter for sure.
Cool. Oh shoot, I was gonna ask you something and I lost it.
I got
I was intrigued by what you were saying, and I lost what I was thinking about. Go ahead, Mutt.
I just want to know, what's it like when Peter gets really mad?
That's a good
Have you ever
Oh,
seen the
man.
guy really? Because every time I've ever seen an interview or any kind of public display, he's as calm and cool as the
He's,
He is cool as ice water, man. That
yeah,
guy.
he is pretty calm and collected. I mean, he's had a lot of hate thrown at him and a lot of
Oh yeah,
a lot of really
Silly
stressful situations, we'll say, and he's been able to get right through it and get back to business and just keep the business going. So
yeah.
I will say that's something that I've always respected him for, is that it doesn't matter what has happened to him personally, professionally, whatever. Number one, he'll be open about it. But number two, he is always, without a doubt, like positive. He's never negative. He never lets it show that, like, if something's bothering him, he will tell you, like, this is something that sucks, but I'm getting through it, and this is why I'm getting through it, and I'm not worried about it. And the dude just keeps doing work every day. So I got a lot of respect for that guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually when we talk on live streams together, we have a little bit of a conversation before we go live, and typically it's obviously a rundown of what we're going to talk about, but then we just get talking about how things are going. I mean, he asks me about my personal life. We talk about how things are going with Alterna as a whole, and I think that he is a pretty transparent individual. So, if you want to ask him a question, if you have a pretty sensitive subject to talk about, I'm sure he's willing to broach the conversation.
Yep, that's cool. We got a question from our boy Cody, and it's a great question. He says, "What inspired the premise for Feast or Famine?"
Oh, okay. So I've had this question a bunch. So my starting point, my launching point for Feast or Famine was Nikola Tesla. I've done a lot. I don't know how many people out there are familiar with my first book, Atlas Origins, but real quick. So Atlas Origins was, again, a metaphysical superhero that was highly inspired by a lot of time that I spent in my mid to late 20s, now that I think about it, researching all kinds of weird, happenings in the world and alternative theories of reality and consciousness. And that's that was not good. Anyway, so all kinds of interesting things that are unexplained. And I tried to take all of that stuff and mash it into a concept for a superhero. And one of those things that I was researching all along the way was this idea of Nikola Tesla and his mark on the world, and his sort of genius in the way that he looked at the relationship between technology and nature. And I think in a lot of ways his ideas, his way of thinking was completely forgotten about. And I just wanted to try to find a way to take his character, his legacy, his what he represents, and make a story of redemption a bit about it. So I started with that, and then I started thinking, okay, well, what other thing can I do, to diversify, this cast, because it can't just be about him. I want to add somebody else into the mix. And I don't know where I got it from, but I had this idea of just, why don't we just throw Einstein into the mix? Everybody knows Einstein, right? So I think almost that interesting pairing of a really well-known scientific mathematical genius with someone that's relatively unknown, and trying to almost rewrite history in a way and put them in a completely separate, alternate dimension, offered me the chance to create a story that's totally original, inspired by history that we are familiar with, but at the same time, something unique and different. So I had that. and I wasn't sure where I was going to take it. And then I was going through a bunch of old stories story ideas that I had. And one of the ideas was this trip that someone would take to an alien world. But when they got there, the alien world isn't what it was presented to be. And when I put all of that together, I kind of saw this vision of like a 1950s retro style comic, but starring these two guys in an alien world. Because to me, it all just sort of clicked at a certain point. You know, it all made sense that all these things would go together. And then I don't know how long it took me, maybe a couple of months. I mapped out the plan for the story and tried to carve it out into, you know, a few issues. And then, like I said before, you know, when I was talking to Peter Semeni at the beginning, you know, I had 6 originally, so I had to, you know, refine it down to about 4, and then split that up into, you know, 3 sections. So, you know, it's a lot of, you know, crafting and sculpting and trying to make sure you get the best, you know, distillation down, you know.
That's tough, man. That's tough when you had 6 and you had to whittle it down to that. Like, we're going through some, you know, we've gone through the same thing. Like, I'm the writer and I wrote this very, very long story that's not going to fit in 48 pages. And we had to figure out how to do that. And that's the worst part, is because there's all these things that I was like, Mutt, this is important. This part is important. We need this. And he's like, nope, axe, it gets cut, man. It's not important. We got to tell it visually, remember? And so that's something that a lot of people, I think, don't even understand, is that all these stories, probably every single one of these comics, start out bigger than you're going to get. There's so much more that you want to tell, and you just can't. You have to fit it in the amount of pages you got. You only have so much real estate, 11 by 17 or whatever it is.
Well, right. Well, and the thing about it too is, you know, when you're first crafting a universe of characters and the possibility for what they could do and how they could interact, you can map out all kinds of different ideas, and then it's up to you to kind of pick and choose and say, you know, which one of these is, to me, got the most meat on the bone that I can explore, you know, and really see, you know, how I can incorporate that into the story that works with the story, that isn't distracting, you know, from the story.
Yep.
Well, cool. Okay. You talked about, I think we've gone through. Did you want to offer any other things, anything else that you want to talk about before we go off of Feast or Famine? Because I want to talk real quickly about your other project too.
I wanted to ask you too. This has to do with this, so that's why I'm butting in. But what was you said that there was a link that people can go to if they wanted to get your secret perk.
Okay, so if you want to get the secret perk, you have to subscribe to the newsletter. So you go to thefeastofzone.com, and right on the homepage there should be a button to go to subscribe. And
is it the Feast is on?
Yep, thefeastison.com. And then once you subscribe, you'll be able to receive the newsletter updates, and I send out updates every few days with a link to that secret to perk, and you'll actually see a preview of it in the email. But when you click the button, it'll redirect you back to the campaign, and at the very top, you'll be able to see that option.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, I heard you say it before, and I thought that was worth sharing for people. So I did put the link to the website in the chat too. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. And sorry I butted in. You got to continue on with what you were talking about.
So you've got 6 days left.
Yep.
Are you thinking about pushing it? Was this the first 30 days?
Yeah. So it's been going on for 24 days now.
Mm-hmm.
So I am planning on putting it into in demand for a bit, just to get any kind of last minute people that want to make a contribution. And Indiegogo offered it as an option, so I said, why not try it out?
Yeah.
But in your case, you already have all of the content is created. Is that right?
Right. And that's the great thing about this campaign is, as soon as the book is ready to go, it's going to start, going out. So, over the next couple of months, I'm going to get all the perks ready to go. So I'm going to get all the magnets, the stickers, the coasters, everything made. Peter and I are going to be working on getting the books printed, especially that variant version with the retro cover. And then I'm hopeful that we can get everything packaged and out and in your hands by Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
That's great. Very good.
That would be fantastic. Okay, I think it's a fantastic looking concept, great looking book. Absolutely love the covers, love the pencils, the inks, love the layout design, and
it has a good feel. Like just looking at the so you look at a lot of Indiegogo campaigns, and obviously you've had some experience, and you're good with colors. Like that's a skill you have, and sometimes you go to an Indiegogo page and it doesn't feel it doesn't give you that like wow factor. And I think your Indiegogo, like I'd love to hear what Chester would say about this, Mutt, because like he's notoriously hard and harsh on people's pages, and I think he wouldn't have anything to say. He'd be like, "Yep, looks good." Next, like he wouldn't have anything to get you on because it feels right. It has a little bit of a wow factor. The colors are great, like I said before. The art's good, and all the content you have, like curated down into the perks and like even the images that you're scrolling past are all really good. So
thank you.
That's what I want to see a good Indiegogo page. It took us a long time to set ours up, and I was really proud of it. And so I appreciate Indiegogo page now when I look at them when they're good.
For sure.
I wanted to say one thing about it before we bounce off, and that's that it does some of the quality of it reminds me of Black Science.
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah, I thought that too a little bit.
But I'll tell you what, man, I read the first couple of books of Black Science, first couple of trades, and it's a great concept, but there's a real darkness to it that doesn't ever kind of let up. And this seems to have a lot less of that and a lot more almost, I want to say like cosmic, like Fantastic Four kind of good vibes to it. Is that, am I just catching that from colors, or is that accurate?
I'm glad that you caught that, because that was my intention with the palette. So what I was trying to do is create that sort of, 1950s, 60s Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, cosmic, kind of feel with the colors that I was choosing. I talked to Peter a bunch of streams ago about it, and he said I'd love to see you do like a Silver Surfer comic or something like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I thought,
agree.
Hey, I would love to do that too. I mean, the spacey stuff to me is just so much fun to explore different weird palettes, especially this like alien type stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, you got it in spades, man. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, that gives 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Macho. Now let's move over to something.
You can't really get any higher compliment than that, honestly.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, because I saw this in passing, and I looked at the preview. This Confederate monster. This is a real crazy, weird thing that caught my attention, and dude, I really like it, and I hadn't seen it before.
Thank you.
And yeah, I had not even heard of it until Mutt mentioned it earlier, honestly. So I don't know how pro or con, whatever, it doesn't matter, Confederacy or Union, but my father is a huge Civil War buff. Like he does, like, he relic hunts all the time. And he even, like, he trains horses to pull cannons and things like that. And he'll dress up in Union or Confederate outfits and does living histories and stuff. And so something like this is kind of really cool. It's something that I think I might have to get and to be able to share with him, because he's a big Civil War buff and I'm a big comic buff. So maybe that's we have a crossover point now.
Well, you had the audacity the absolute audacity to put the Confederate flag in a modern comic book. So I want to know.
Stars and bars, baby.
Yeah, I want to know a little bit more about this. And is it available still? Can you get this comic still, or how's it work?
So what this is actually more a preview pitch. So I haven't actually pursued this project just yet. This is something that I created actually when I first created Feast or Famine. And Feast or Famine wound up being the pitch that got picked up. So I kind of turned my attention more towards it and kind of shelved this for a bit. So this story is basically a mashup of the Civil War and Frankenstein. So the idea is that we explore the aftermath of what happens after the Frankenstein monster goes on a rampage and the doctor gets locked up in an insane asylum, and what happens to his assistant Igor. So basically, Igor takes some money and plans that were set aside by the doctor in case things went wrong, in order to flee over to the Americas. So I kind of fudged the timeline a little bit, I believe, but Igor travels over to Civil War America, where he establishes himself as a war amputee doctor. And over time, he just sort of infiltrates the high society of Virginia at the time. And eventually, towards the end of the war, the Confederacy are losing, and they find out about him and who he was and his connection to this undead monster. So then they capture his wife and chop her up and basically say, if you don't recreate the process, you're not going to see your wife ever again. So it's sort of a launching point into a bigger story. But honestly, it's
hilarious.
One story that because I still have copies of it. I think I only have about 20 left. But I made up a couple of copies just to sell at Comic-Cons. And almost every single time I go to Comic-Cons, I have more and more people asking about that story. So who knows? Maybe that'll be the next one I do.
That's awesome. I'm in if I'm in for this. And I'm a sucker for zombie-like reanimated monsters, obviously, because that is the vein of book we're currently in. So I am all about it. So you have some copies of this left. So if I were to possibly back Feast or Famine tonight, could I make a request to, or somehow put some more money in to get a copy of this sent to me too?
Absolutely. I can set some aside for you.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And we'll talk about that later. So anyway, okay.
Sure.
Well, I just like the concept. The concept is really cool. I like thinking of it in the sense that Hero, our book, is about undead super soldiers of the future, World War III, and this is undead super soldiers of the past.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty neat, man. Pretty neat. Okay. I did have a couple of other questions for you regarding just some basic conversation, and then we have a couple of our fun questions that we always ask our guests. But let me ask you something real quick. What do you think, because you've done some crowdfunding now, so what do you think about the future of comics as far as creators like us? Should we be focused on crowdfunding right now? Should we be trying to get with groups like Alterna and smaller publishers, more indie houses, things like that? Do you feel like you found a niche, and if so, could you talk about that?
Sure. It's funny that you should ask that question, because I've been kind of toying around in my own head about how I want to continue, because I started out as a self-publisher, and then I decided that I wanted to see what I could make with a more established indie publisher, and I've done that now, and I think it's been going pretty well. So my next sort of venture, I'm wondering if I want to continue going after publishers, or if I want to maybe do the next one, by myself. And see if maybe I could, use something like a Patreon service or something like that, to be able to release comics, in pieces. So, people could actually read it as I create it. And maybe at the end of, a full story of 6 or 7 issues, then maybe we do a crowdfunder where we can create, a physical copy that everyone can get and really support. So, personally, I think the future lies somewhere in the middle, where, you establish yourself first and foremost with a fan base, because I think everybody nowadays, there's no reason why you can't. Between YouTube and social media, there's all kinds of different avenues for you to be able to get your work in front of people and to allow them to help contribute to create that work. So, I think, like I said, a combination of, still going after publishers, because I think that every once in a while, it's a good idea if you think you've got something that might really fit well for a publisher, you see could really, work well for their, collection of titles, then sure, go for it. Absolutely. And honestly, I think it's a good idea just to remind people that you're out there. You know what I mean? Like, if you send something out, once or twice, but then don't send anything else out for 3 or 4 years, then you kind of drop off the map. But if you're sending something out at least once a year, then at least publishers are seeing that you're working and that you're continuing to develop and grow and trying, to get something out there. Even if you're still all the while, doing your own thing, establishing yourself, as your own, shop where you can sell your work, directly. So, that's kind of where I see it. It's kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, because you can see that crowdfunding does work, especially for guys like me and Macho who are just jumping into it for the first time. So we've got to build our audience, right? We can build it through social media. We can take them to Indiegogo. They can buy our products. We can move a bunch of product that way. And there's a lot of situations that people have done really well, even on their first books, depending on the kind of audience they've been able to garner. But then at some point in time, you want to have, I guess that's where we'll have to find out for ourselves. But it seems like you'd want to have a better situation than having to do it all yourself.
Well, and I think working with a publisher just lends you a certain amount of credibility. If you're just out there doing it all by yourself, it's hard for anyone to really kind of talk about you and say, oh, like, this guy, he's really good at comics, like he makes all these awesome things, versus he works for Image, or he's done work for Marvel, or when you start saying things like that, that makes people think, oh, like, this guy's good because these other well-established companies have wanted to work with them. So again, I think that working with publishers, there's lots of advantages to it, but at the same time, there are disadvantages. I mean, a lot of times you have to kind of do what they say. If there's a specific template that they have, or a specific way that they want the files, or a specific, color scheme that they need for the printing process or whatever, that's just the way that it goes sometimes, So there's pros and cons, obviously, but honestly, I think that the future lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think for us, it was important to get out and build that fan base. I think that's what everybody says, and I think it's definitely the first piece of the puzzle. And we wanted to put out a book that is high quality and is good, so people can see what we're capable of, so that we can continue to make stories in the future and try some new things, and hopefully have a fan base and move on into some other areas and kind of experiment with the whole indie scene and where we can go, because we're not trying to be one trick ponies. We're trying to stick around for a while.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I hear you there.
Yep. Cool.
One thing about Alterna that's interesting to me is that Marvel and DC, and I think even Image now, are really falling into ideological trappings of, whether or not you agree or disagree with what they believe in. They are kind of, in a lot of ways, just kind of they're taking a market approach, right? And that market approach is either going to be good or bad. Now, I believe it's isolating older fans, and in a lot of ways, the majority of the fans, because comic book fans are kind of skewing older now. And Alterna, Alterna really finds itself in a nice niche because of Peter, because he's been able, this is just from a guy looking from the outside in, right? It seems that Peter's been able to hold it together under really bad scrutiny and even dangerous situations.
Right.
And the fact that he's been able to do that has put Alterna on the map as the home of choice for indie creators who are looking for a publisher.
Right.
I think what that gives him, it really gives him the opportunity, in my opinion, and I'm just looking at sort of like what I know, and I've been collecting comics, basically my whole life. So I know a lot of the indie publishers. But it puts him in a situation where he can be the new Image, right? Not necessarily superhero comics, right? Not necessarily Marvel, DC, but he can be the new Image in the sense that he can have all of those really cool books like this, and like some of the horror books, and also some of the family style books. He can have a really great eclectic mix that reaches a big, wide audience of people, and the price point is so low. The entry is super easy.
Right.
So when I look at the landscape, Alterna is sitting really pretty right now. And guys like me and Macho look at them, and we have a very favorable outlook of that business model.
Absolutely.
And I really hope beyond hope that Peter will be able to continue that growth, because I know he's had a lot of growth over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people in the Comicsgate crowd and indie comics scene that are sort of specific to that comics revolution type guys, they have really put a positive spotlight on him. So and on Alterna. So it's like, to me, it's like you got crowdfunding and you got Alterna, and somewhere in the mix, like if Peter can find a business model that appeals to, and I know he's already kind of working with creators who are doing campaigns. Like I saw in an interview where he was talking about, hey, if you got a campaign going, talk to me, and I'll help you through that to make sure that it goes well, and then we'll print and publish it and do the whole thing.
Right.
So it's great to hear your positive feedback on working with him, and it's a great testament. But I was really interested in your answer to that, and somewhere in the middle. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Peter he's found himself, a good. He has surrounded himself, I believe, with all kinds of really talented creators. And I think that is one of the things that kind of separates them beyond all the other things that you might find on a sales sheet that says this is how we're different from our competitors. Beyond all of that, one of the major things I was excited about when I found out he wanted to pick up one of my books was, I really enjoyed the fact that all of the books that I saw were done professionally. They look professional. They were, presented in a professional fashion. I was able to pick up some of them and read them. They were written professionally.
Yeah.
I was just very taken with, his ability to pick good quality books to publish. And I was very, humbled to be, one of those people that he picked. So, like I said before, I mean, working with him has been great, and there's many reasons why.
Well, that's cool, man. So let's move on to our fun questions. And by the way, it looks like you've gotten a backer from Septinov 7.
Yeah. That's Septinov is a good dude. He is a lover and a connoisseur of excellent indie content, and so he is on it. He said 100 pages and a T-shirt sold, just backed it. So awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yep, he's
All
a good
right.
dude.
So, are you ready for our questions? So, these are the patented mutton macho questions we ask all of our guests. And here's the first one. And just answer honestly. If you don't have a good answer, just say pass or whatever. We're not going to embarrass you, but it's just among some dudes to have a good, fun conversation. So, here's the first one.
Okay.
Have you ever been in a fist fight?
I have not.
Never been punched in the face. Never punched another man in the face.
Nope.
So
I will say that once I was playing backyard football with some guys, and I had one guy who thought he could lay me out, and he came charging at me like a bull, and I stood my ground, and he went down, and that was a good feeling.
Oh,
but
man.
we didn't come to blows.
That's good.
So. Good, but he ended up on the ground.
He did.
Okay. Yeah, it serves him right, thinking he can knock you down like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the worst job you've ever had? What's your worst job story?
I was a busboy at Big Boy. For those who aren't familiar.
Big Boy. Yeah.
Oh man, Big Boy, like a old timey dinery kind of restaurant.
Burger restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, burger restaurant. Right. So I cleaned up all the dishes, and I, emptied all the trash and mopped the floors and did all the nasty jobs that nobody else wanted to do.
Clean the bathrooms. Do you clean those bathrooms?
Clean the bathrooms.
Okay.
I, did everything else that nobody else wanted to do.
Everybody should have to, at some point, clean bathrooms for someone else. I think that's a requirement.
Preach it, Macho.
That's right.
This is why you're a great creator and comic book artist, okay? Because you had to clean bathrooms.
That's right.
Well, it's funny too, because my next job after that, I cleaned bathrooms and machines at a gym. So I was for quite a while.
You clean the sweaty machines that people are using.
So Big Boy was worse than that.
I think I gotta say, I think the busboy job was worse only because of the smell.
Yeah,
the gym was stanky, but I could deal with the gym smell, whereas the smell of just garbage all the time was pretty awful.
I bet when you went home, you were still greasy from like they're cooking in the back and they're like frying stuff and grill. You get that grease that just doesn't come out of your clothes or anything.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you're just soaked. Your shirt's soaked. Your pants are soaked.
I told this story before, but I had a buddy who, one of my best friends, I was sort of homeless for a small time in my early 20s, and I lived in my buddy's dorm room. I was just I didn't have a job or anything, and I lived there for a month, a little over a month, I think. And he worked at a Subway, so the pro was he brought me Subway every day, and I had to spend money on food. The con was everything absolutely reeked of Subway. And to this day, I hate going in Subway. It's awful, the smell.
Man.
We got a new hashtag. Well, first of all,
I see.
Septanov says that he also was a busboy at Big Boys. So
really,
yeah. And so you got some camaraderie there. And then, of course, Sean R2D2 for life says no shirt like the bro shirt. That will never die for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we share a similar shirt, and we're never wearing it at the same time. So the premise is that we are trading back and forth the same shirt and sharing a shirt. So it's called a bro shirt. It's not, shirt, but they won't let it die. It's really fun.
And he said hashtag Hobo Dan. That was a small portion of my life. Hobo Dan was a guy. He also asked, this sort of is offensive. He asked if I'm secretly Jared from Subway.
Yeah, that's offensive.
That's absolutely not the case.
No.
Don't even start a Bleeding Fool article about that, please. Anyway.
Well, okay. Those are the embarrassing questions that we have.
They're not too embarrassing.
They're not too bad. So I just want to say thanks very much for being our guest today. We've gone a little over time, but I appreciate you sticking with us. Please go. Thank you, Sep, for your purchase. Please go and back. Let's see. Let me get over here to the page again. Feast or Famine. There's already, this book is going to get made. They have Dave has reached his goal. So now basically just jump on, you know, you can jump in and get you some sweet perks. You can get you that swag combo. That's pretty awesome right there. That's a great deal.
I love a good t-shirt, a good like comic t-shirt. I'm all about it.
Yeah. And you're not going to find one like that. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, the t-shirts were really, really well done as well. I was able to find a printer that could do that really awesome graphic above the logo. It turned out great.
You got one there you can show us real quick? I'll put it back.
Yes, I do.
Oh, look, he figured out how to do it. Look at that.
Oh, that's a nice looking
man.
Look at those graphics, man.
Yeah, I dig a purple shirt too.
That's sweet.
I'm in.
That's sweet. All right.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
Cool.
All right, go back this thing, and also after that, go back Hero Blooded Patriots. We are in demand right now. This book is being created as we speak. It's a lot of fun. We're having more fun than should be legal, but it's going to be a great book. It's about undead super soldier in World War III, and you know, just check it out. You're going to love it. We'll put the link in the description along with the Indiegogo link for Feast of Famine. And hey, man, it was really great talking to you. Very insightful and great conversation. Appreciate you being with us today, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's been great.
All right. This is the Boomercast signing off. I actually did this thing right and nothing crashed, except I can't figure out where I'm pointing because I'm backwards on my screen.
All right.
But thank you, Macho, as always. Appreciate you, Sean and Sep, for being in the chat. Thank you, Cody. I know Cody's already left. All right. Everybody have a wonderful night.
See ya.
See you guys. All right.